Good morning. Since nobody's saying this, I'm gonna tell you myself. I don't think you guys are understanding what's going on right now. Christmas is canceled. 2023 Christmas is canceled. Unless you're a millionaire, of course. That doesn't concern you. For us poor folks out here that was trying to make ends meet to make our kids happy, Christmas is canceled. You know what else is canceled? Thanksgiving is canceled. You want to know why Thanksgiving is canceled? As of November 1st, everything we used to buy for $1 is not going to be worth no damn dollar. Alexa, what are some things we import from China?
From businesstoday.in. The major import items from China are telecom instruments, computer hardware and peripherals, fertilizers, electronic components/instruments, project goods, organic chemicals, drug intermediates, consumer electronics, electrical machinery, etc.
She said etc. That means there's more, right? Everything you used to buy, let's say the phone's like $900 to $1,000, is gonna go up to at least, let me get my calculator. One second.
Welcome to the CBC Podcast. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for being here. Welcome to the home of modern dating, interpersonal relationships, entrepreneurship, current events, politics, sports, and much, much more. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Thank you very much. As a matter of fact, give yourselves a round of applause for sticking with us for over a year here on the channel. We appreciate it very much. Like and subscribe to the channel. Hit that button on the way in or the way out, either one. We appreciate it. It helps with the algorithm, helps a small channel like us gain some traction so we can continue to bring good content to you. With that out of the way, what are we talking about today? Well, this is a topic that's near and dear to everyone right now. Well, anyone who pays bills, let me say that.
Or needs to eat.
Or if you need to eat. Well, if you don't have to eat, you might be okay. Rampant inflation. That's what we're talking about today. We're talking about inflation. We're talking about the impact that it's having on all of us at this point. I mean, I don't think that anybody is immune to it right now. I mean, even people who are well-to-do or doing, upper class, upper middle class, whatever, everybody's feeling the squeeze in some way, shape, or form right now. So I thought, but what better time? We're talking about it. We said, so kicking us around some topics, and we say, hey, this is a topic because now everybody on the street is talking about it, right? So she's at work, people in her facilities are talking about it. I'm at work, people are talking about it. Just people you bump into in my building or on the street or whatever, and everyone's talking about rising rents, rising medical premiums, rising prescription costs, rising groceries, gas prices, daycare prices. It's pretty much across the board. Everything went up all at the same time, right?
At the exact same time.
Almost at the exact same time, right? So now us here in Florida have already, we are kind of already conditioned or used to the rental inflation thing. It hit us in the head a long time ago. Like we've already taken the pain on that. But what I've noticed now is that this is now spilling into other states.
It's catchy.
Right? It seems to be contagious, this inflation thing, right? So what we're going to do today is we're going to educate a little bit. We're going to talk about, number one, what is inflation? Because a lot of people don't even know what it is. Like they just hear the word and they say, oh, okay, well, it sounds like something's inflating, which it is, which is prices, which is the CPI, the Consumer Price Index. As a matter of fact, here you go. Inflation. In economics, inflation is an increase in the money supply causing the Consumer Price Index or the CPI to increase. When the general price level rises, each unit of currency buys fewer goods and services. Consequently, inflation corresponds to a reduction in the purchasing power of money. So very simple. Why did I show you that? Why did I read that? Because a lot of people don't really understand the causes of inflation, what actually causes it, right? Well, an increase in the money supply is the root cause, right? So when you hear about, for example, when we did the stimulus packages, right?
Right.
We printed up money. We increased the money supply. Therefore, we created inflation. When we send money to Ukraine, we print up money. We send it over there. We're increasing the money supply. We're creating inflation, right? So then everybody sits around and says, well, why do we have inflation? Well, it's like you see what we're doing here. You see what's happening, right? So that's why. Now, there's a lot of reasons. Now, people will say, well,
Now, a lot of people are saying it's global. It's not just here. It's happening to everybody, so it's
Yeah.
global.
Yeah. So someone had that same argument. I was trying to explain this to somebody last year. They were we were having a debate, sort of a political debate, and they were basically, they weren't happy with the current administration, but they were giving them a pass on the inflation piece because they were like, well, it doesn't matter who's in office, they would have to deal with this because this is a global issue. It's global. Everybody's dealing with it. It's everywhere, right? And for a while, they were blaming it on Vladimir Putin. Like, they were blaming it on everybody for a while.
Because it's not our fault. It's not Biden's fault. It's global.
It's global. Now, let me explain why it's global. First of all, the reason why it's quote unquote global is because you can see here more than 65 countries currently peg their currency to the US dollar, meaning they allow it to free float against the dollar exchange rate. And then you have a myriad of countries, I believe it's 11 total, that actually have adopted the dollar. Like, they either got rid of their local currency and just used the dollar. Do you see here, we've got Puerto Rico, Ecuador, El Salvador, Zimbabwe, Guam, Virgin Islands, British Islands, Bonaire, America, Samoa, and some other islands here. Panama. Hey, Panama, look at that. Panama. Hey, Mom, how about that? So that's why what I was trying to explain to that person, they didn't understand that the US dollar is the world's reserve currency. They didn't understand that, of course, if the dollar inflates, then so does everything else, right? Because you have countries, they peg their currency to the dollar. So the dollar kind of underpins pretty much not all currencies, but for a broad basket of currencies, right? So if the US dollar is under pressure and our CPI is going up and the dollar value is going down, well, a lot of times what will happen is other countries, they don't want their currency to appreciate too much against the dollar because then it's going to hurt their exports, right? They won't be able to export as much because it'll be more expensive. So they'll devalue their currency as well. So they'll, on purpose, to keep, that's what we mean by pegging. They peg it to us and they just kind of let it free float. So now this bout of inflation, the reason why it's so serious is because we had a lot of things exacerbating it. For example, the lockdowns, right? So the lockdowns created supply chain issues. I mean, remember we were talking to the guy. He said he works on houses, and he said I forgot what the price was, but he said a certain cut of plywood used to be, I don't know, $6 or something like that. And he's going crazy because he's like, it's $37 now. Like, he was going crazy, right? Because you had more dollars chasing fewer goods and you had supply chain issues, right? So the Home Depots and the Lowe's weren't getting their deliveries, right? So that's why it's been exacerbated. What else happens? Well, the rental inflation stuff, we already talked about that in other shows, but really what that is just kind of a byproduct of everything else. You have, at least here in Florida, you had, population increase, and then you had shortage of supplies, right? So houses are taking longer to be built, right? Because, supply chain shortages increase. Right? I talked to a guy who does house flipping. He ain't flipping too well right now. Drywall. He was mind blown with what the drywall was going to cost him to do. So he thought he was going to make this much profit on the job, right? Yeah. Now it's looking like this. Like, now it's looking like, dude, we might be lucky to get out of here with any profit, right?
Paint and all that stuff.
Paint has gone up. Drywall. Somebody very close and personal that has a house business. As a matter of fact, let me ask you, the people you're out here talking to every day, and you have a life experience scenario with that person who does house repairs and things like that. What are some of the stories you've heard just at work, out and about how inflation is impacting folks?
Oh, well, it's all you have to do is go on TikTok. That's what happened to me. I fell into the inflation TikToks, and they just keep showing you one right after another. So you get a really good perspective on what's going on with people all over because like you said, we kind of felt it first down here is what it seemed like. And then it started popping like popcorn everywhere else. And now people in Nebraska and Indiana and Iowa and, you know, places where their rent is under $1,000. But to them, you know, at that rate of pay there, it's all relative, you know, to what you get paid. But people that I work with, I mean, people are using, there's a lot of credit card debt. People are using their credit cards to buy food.
Yeah, I meant to actually share that graphic. Credit card debt is at an all-time high because people are now using credit cards just to pay bills. Like seriously, like they're like at the end of the month, people don't have the surplus that they used to have. So at the end of the month, there's bills that need to be paid. They got to be paid, right? So you got to put it on a credit card if you have one. If you don't have one, then somebody ain't getting paid. But this problem is now that when she told me that she was seeing it on TikTok, I said, okay, now it's not just localized inflation like to somewhere like Florida or California, et cetera, right? Like, so here we already, like, we got hit over the head first. I believe, as a matter of fact, I believe Florida, we have the highest rate of inflation, I believe, or at least we did here recently, in the United States. So there's a lot of factors. There's a lot of reasons, but everyone is impacted by this is the key thing. I don't think there's anyone that's immune right now. Like, I mean, we see it in the Hollywood stuff going on, even though it's not necessarily due to quote unquote inflation. It kind of is, because guess what? If there's less discretionary spending, right? Fewer people are going to the movies, right? Fewer people are going out to restaurants, right? So it's a trickle down effect. If people don't have the money to go out and spend, the discretionary spending is going to dry up. So stuff like movies, you know, just things on the weekend. Disney, you see Disney's park attendance is way down for more reasons than inflation, but it's across the board. I think everyone's feeling it in some way, shape or form. And then what happens is these companies, like everybody right now, like, gets these unexpected increases, like, you know, in their premiums or whatever it is. And then you call up the company, you're mad, right? You call them up, you're like, man, what's going on? Right? And they just tell you, yes, it's inflation. They just said,
no, they say, oh, that's very frustrating, ma'am. I know how you must feel.
Yeah. I did this with my insurance company, by the way. They jacked my insurance up like a ridiculous rate. I called them up and I was like, what's going on here? I don't expect this from you guys. You know, and she's like, oh, it's just the main issue right now is just inflation and just, you know, it's just so many. So
that's the only answer that people can give you because that is the only answer. It's out of our control. And what I think is, as a Floridian, because we got hit with it first, you had to kind of learn how to roll with the punches because, correct me if I'm wrong, are we in the top 3 of the most expensive states to live in?
Well, now Miami's number 1.
Okay. And then we are on the lower paying scale, because we live on the lower, half of the United States is a lower paying scale. People I saw in Jersey wouldn't come here because they would get like a 50% paycheck.
We're way underpaid.
So we're underpaid. So with that being said, and you have to still live here or move to Georgia.
Yeah.
A lot of people have second jobs. Most people I know have at least 2 jobs.
Right. That's a new normal, by the way, is having 2 jobs. Like Benjamin just said, there's a lot of people right now that I know have picked up a little, if not like an actual job, then they've had to pick up a side hustle of some sort just to make ends meet. And I think I said this on a long time ago on a bunch of shows ago. I was talking about how if you are still just looking at your day job as the end all to be all, you're going to fall way behind. That's not going to do it anymore, unfortunately, because what we know is that these companies, especially down here where we're underpaid, they pretend to not know that all this inflation is going on, right? Have you ever noticed that? Have you ever noticed that they don't give you, if you get a raise at all, because a lot of times they'll say, oh, we can't afford to give raises this year. Yeah. Right. So you're just, everything else went up by 20%.
And you get a 2% raise.
And then you get a 2% raise, right? You're 3% if you're very, very lucky, right? It's because these companies pretend to not know, or they hide behind it's transitory. Like, I know that's what Biden kept saying. Like, I know that's what him and his folks kept on saying. This is transitory. Transitory where? From me to her and back to me? Like, what are you talking about, dude? The transitory where? I ain't seen nothing transitory about this. I ain't seen nothing. Matter of fact, I wait, transitory, or does that mean they're going to come put on my door? Hey, man, your rent's going to actually go down next month. Don't worry about it. It was transitory. That to me is transitory, right? So when they say that, that infuriates me because I'm sitting up there. Well, why are you lying to us? You know this ain't trend. Ask yourself this, folks. When have you seen prices go down voluntarily? Like, when have you seen a business like okay, airlines, right? They started charging for luggage for fuel prices. The fuel prices went down. Did they stop charging for luggage? No. You see what I mean? They never are going to they are never going to voluntarily give anything back. They're never going to do that. So this idea of transitory is complete BS. If you hear a politician say that dude or he or she is lying through their teeth. There's nothing transitory about prices going up. Now, gas prices, of course, will fluctuate with oil production and, whatever's going on in the world or whatever. But guess what? This is another fact that people don't know. We talked about the CPI index. Guess what they don't include in that? Or else the rate would be way higher. They don't include food. They don't include gasoline. They don't include rent. Gee, I wonder why. Those are the three things you need.
Well, they did say in the United States, only the United States voted that food is not a right to the people. It's not a right.
Okay.
It's a luxury item, I guess. You don't have a right to food here.
Okay.
That came out.
And we didn't even talk about
all the other countries. It's a right. United States, it is not.
And we didn't even talk about the farmers that are remember, this was a long time ago when we were watching the farmer videos, because when eggs went up, remember when didn't eggs get really
come
stupid?
Back down a little bit, yeah.
At one point, the eggs were so stupid, right? So there were, I remember there were a bunch of farmers putting out TikTok videos because people were yelling at the farmers, right? Saying, what are you guys doing? And they're like, it's not us.
They were destroying the supply as well. They were throwing the eggs out.
And the milk and all of that. And then the farmers were getting yelled. Everybody was yelling, but they're like, look, this is not us. We're not doing this.
They were told to do that.
Yeah,
they told them they had to throw away that milk, that they had to waste the milk and waste the eggs.
When the supply chains also shut down, there were pallets and pallets and truckloads of milk that they just had to destroy because it can't sit, right? So they just had to destroy it. Did they destroy it on purpose? So there's a lot of moving parts to this, and we're all impacted. Like, all of us are impacted. I mean, I talk to business owners all the time. Like, when I'm out, because I have a small business as well. So I talk to business owners when I'm out and about and doing deals or going to trade shows or whatever. And all of them are saying the same thing. All of them are saying the same thing. Everyone is impacted by it at some way, shape, or form. We're all in this together, whether you like it or not. So,
yeah,
this is not even a right left thing. Like, this isn't even an argument on that. This is an economics.
This is a we thing.
This is a we thing, right? And it's, unfortunately,
there's a lot of people crying, because they say, you told us to go to school. We went to school. Mm-hmm. You tell us to work harder. I'm working harder. Do you really know that people are saying, I will never have a house. Mm-hmm. I will never. There are people working full-time jobs and living in their car.
Yeah.
How do you have a full-time job and be on government assistance and live in your car? This is happening.
Well, and you talk about never owning a home. I saw a video where it was a younger guy, and he was basically saying, for us, it's very difficult. Like, it's basically impossible for a kid. Let's say he's 23, 24 years old. Let's say he's making $35,000 a year, which might be generous, depending upon where he's at. It's literally impossible for them to go out here. First of all, save it, because most of the time now, there's competition to buy houses too, right? So, because there's not enough supply, right? So if you go out there to buy a home, most of these banks are going to say they want 20% down. Well, if you got a $300,000 house, how many kids have 60 grand laying around? So
it's a hopeless situation. for a lot of people.
Which really annoys people. Like, I'll tell you something that annoys people, and you probably heard this one, where you have people who have been homeowners for decades, or they have houses passed down through generations and things like that, or they, whatever the case may be. They've been longtime homeowners for somehow. When they say, well, that's why you have to own, so your rent doesn't go up. Yeah, but you bought your house into year 2000. Not 2023
or 1980.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not the same. Like, when people say that, I just sit there like, yeah, because it's that easy to go out here right now. If you can find a $300,000 home, which down here is now considered average, right? By the way, you go out there, you have 60 grand. Because guess what? The person over here who wants to buy it does have 60 grand. The person coming down from New York or the person coming from Cali, they have 60 grand to buy that house right now. Mm-hmm. So for that kid who was explaining, he's like, what are we supposed to do? He said, people laugh at us for staying at home with our parents, but what are we supposed to do? Right? They're kind of stuck.
Yeah. It's sad. If you're not making close to six figures, it's a rough life.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah. This is not the day. And I empathize with people I talk to people all the time. They're working class people. They might be a married couple with two kids, and they went to school, did all the things that they overpaid for school, of course, because that's a whole nother show, but we have to do when school died is when it became for profit, but that's a whole nother show that we have to do one day. But because now they're paying their loans, right? The student loans. They got a job in their field, but they might be making 40, 45 grand. So even if they're making 45, the husband's making 40, 45 grand, there might be at 80, 90 grand. That's still very tight, especially when you have two children, right? That are in activities and you want them to do things. You don't want to just say, you don't want to, on the weekend, what are we going to do?
The park is free.
The park is free. The pool is free, right? So the frustration is setting in because people are like, wait a minute, this ain't no American dream. Like,
they've already said that's over.
Oh, it is over?
Yeah, it's all over. The American dream is gone because they're looking on at their parents, or if they're young enough, their parents, and how you were able to work for a company full time so that and end there and get a pension and have your 401k and buy a home. And 2 generations ago, the wife stayed home and took care of the children. That was the American dream. Mom was home, took care of the children, the home, and dad. And he went out and he worked and he came home. And it was kind of like that Leave It to Beaver era. And it's totally changed.
The white picket fence, the dog and all those things. That was the American dream. And honestly, right now, I don't see it. I mean, it might be exist in Middle America, places like that. But I think that even in Middle America, though, some of those videos are from Middle America.
They're starting to feel it too. I mean, it's relative to your area and what you make and what's offered and your location.
And then you tack on the exorbitant taxes that we pay in this country. We pay exorbitant taxes. I mean, I told you, I stopped looking at my pay stubs in 2016.
We live in a state where we don't pay a state tax.
Yeah.
And you imagine you're living in a state. Okay. You're already not making enough money. Mm-hmm. You're already probably maybe on government assistance or know somebody that is, and you are working as well. And then your state is taking money from you to live there.
Yeah.
And I mean,
and then if you own a home, you have to pay property taxes on the home. So you have to pay the state for the right to own your home. And in a lot of states, like when I lived in Virginia, you had to pay property taxes on your vehicle too. So these dudes, the government has their hands in everybody's pockets all the time. It's bad. Like, it's just constant money grabs, man. Like, it's just constant. It's just like, we pay obscene taxes. I mean, at least those of us who pay taxes. I mean, half of us don't. Statistically, 49% of Americans don't actually pay any income tax. But
so the question then, the taxes that the middle class pays to help out people that get assistance, does that have anything to do with inflation? Like you were telling me, what if you had to give when you explain it to me, how we help people out is we give 50 cents. Or if I have $1, I'm giving more than half of my dollar away to somebody.
I think it's 52 cents. Yeah. Of every dollar.
That's also, so with the inflation, so I'm getting hit with inflation and I'm giving half of my money away to strangers.
So the 52 cents of every dollar, 52 cents of every dollar that the U.S. government collects goes to entitlements. What are entitlements? Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, welfare. That most of our, well, I think it's either 52 cents or 56 cents. I'll find it. That I'll put it in the description box, but it's call it 50%, right? For argument's sake. Think about that. Half of every dollar you have to set aside to go out for entitlement programs. And I think Biden just came out recently talking about he wanted to increase welfare as well. So I'm like,
so that would mean, let's say 60 cents out of all my dollars I'm giving away. So I get to keep 40 cents, 40%, and I'm getting hit with inflation.
Yes. I heard a guy on the radio. He lives in New York. He's a radio personality. I forgot his name, but he makes a lot of money, right? He's a radio guy. But he said, and it is why I don't understand how anyone lives in New York. I just don't get it. But he said 64 cents of every dollar that he earns goes to federal, state, municipal taxes. 64 cents because he's in a high tax bracket. So 64% of what he's earning, he just gives to the government. That's crazy.
That's modern day slavery, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm telling you, man, the system is rigged. Like that. We could do a whole show on the whole federal income tax thing because all of that should never have been done anyway. That was a scam perpetrated on all of us. But that's too deep to go into right now. But to answer your question, yes, you're paying all of those taxes and you're getting hit with inflation, right? Because that guy, he's paying all those taxes. And guess what? I bet you his rent went up too. Mm-hmm. See? Mm-hmm. I bet you his HOA went up too. Yeah. I bet you his insurance went up too. Of
course.
Remember they say there is no such thing as a free lunch. So when you hear people say that this is one of the things that I used to get into arguments with people, stuff like disability. People would say, well, why don't you just file disability, man? That's free money. Mm-hmm. It's not free. Do you know where that money comes from? It comes from hardworking taxpayers. So if you are not disabled and you're going out there and you're filing and claiming disability, you're getting a check. That check, whatever amount it is, came from all of us. Okay. That just understand that when you say things like that, all this free and there's nothing that's free. That's why when, like, I don't understand, like when these politicians get up there and they start talking about all the stuff they're going to give away for free, there's no such thing as free.
Yeah.
Somebody's paying for what they're giving to someone else. Okay.
What I have seen though is people are waking up to that because they're being squeezed so much that they're starting to figure out where they're getting squeezed at. Who's all got their hands in my pockets? And by the way, I'm paying for people that aren't working.
Quick story. Buddy of mine was in a grocery store down in Miami, and he noticed he's in the line, and everybody knows food prices are up, right? So he's looking at this couple in front of him, and they had 2 buggies full of stuff, right? There's a guy and a girl, and they had 2 kids. And the dude was G'd up, man. He had on he was dressed up, boom, boom, boom. His girl's hair was done. She looked good. The kids were G'd up, nice shoes, everything. Everybody looks good. They got 2 big carts of food. They're like, oh man, these people are doing great. They get up there to pay, and he says, this dude whips out an EBT card. And he was like, are you kidding me? So here you are, you're G'd up. Bro, he said, you don't look like you're struggling. And then on top of that, they went and got into a nice car. So this is what taxpayers pay for. All those 2 buggies of food is taxpayer funded. Mm-hmm. Just know that. That people don't get it. Like they think that the government they don't have like a private like coffer that they can just, this is just for what? No. That's taxpayer money that they collect from all of us to go out to those folks. So the argument is this. No one's sitting here saying shut down welfare. Nobody's saying that. But what we're saying is, do we really have money to increase entitlements? Do we have money? I mean, I've been asking, apparently we have a bunch of money laying around to send to Ukraine, but
Just about to say, can we get him to stop doing that?
how much money have we? My goodness. Is anyone keeping track? Like, I know recently they said that, they actually lost track of some money that had been sent there, but I'm sure they lost track of more than some of it. But the idea here, ladies and gentlemen, is that we're all in the same boat. You're not getting away from inflation right now. It's here. It's probably here to stay, and at least for the foreseeable future. I don't really see any relief like in the near term. And if you're waiting on your rent to go down, that's never going to happen, ever.
And this is, I think, the one topic that everyone can agree upon, whether you like the president or not.
Yeah.
This is something that everyone doesn't like about
Absolutely.
his presidency.
Yeah, everyone, even people that I know that were, in support of this guy, they're now just like, oh my God, man, like this, cause even people I know who do well, like I got a really good friend who his wife is a doctor, and even though they do well, they're still feeling like, he told me, he said, man, I had to stop. He used to take his family out to eat twice a month. He said, I don't do it anymore. I can't afford it, because take a family of 5 to a restaurant now. How much is that?
I told you. I went across the street to check out a new restaurant, the Juicy Crab. So let me check out their menu. It would have cost me $50 for me.
One person.
For me. For one plate and everything, half pound, one claw, little pile of shrimp, something like that.
So times 4. There you go. For one meal.
Yeah.
It's out of control. It's tough. Everyone's feeling it. There's a small percentage of people that can't relate because they just can't. Like they're either rich or they're trust fund babies or whatever the case, and they don't know what we're talking about. They're sitting up there, transportation. they don't know, right? They have no idea. But most other people are feeling it, especially if you're in the middle class. The middle class always, remember I told you, the trash compactor,
Yep.
We're all in that compactor right now. We're bumping up against the time. Like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for being here. We'll talk soon.
Babe, the Target CEOs are on crack again. Look at these prices. Just look. This is $20. My finger for comparison. Maybe 3.5 inches. For $20, they're selling this shitty small basket. Again, finger for comparison. $10 for this teeny tiny fake plant that I can fit in the palm of my hand. By the way, I don't have big hands. This is dollar store crap. Again, tiny plant, $20. This one's maybe 8 inches tall, $30. This is the most dystopian thing I've ever seen though. So if the national minimum wage is still $7 an hour, you would have to work for over 3 hours after taxes to be able to afford this tiny fake plant.